How good is the best player on your favorite NBA team? And how does that stack up against the rest of the teams across the league? In this video, I'm ranking the best players from every team. This is not a 1 through 30 best players in the NBA list. So if your team has 2 top 30 players on it, only one of them are going to make it. So the rules here are very simple. I chose one player from each team to represent them as their best player, and then I ranked them 1 through 30. And I'm going to go through them from bottom to top. Let's go. Number 30 on the list is going to be Nick Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets. The fact that Nick Claxton just got like $100 million and can be considered the best player for the Nets tells you all you need to know about where Brooklyn is right now. They are all about the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, and they should be. At 29, I've got Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards. He could be a nice addition to a contending team or a team that's trying to make a run in the playoffs. There's been, speculation about the Kings now that they brought in DeMar DeRozan. Maybe they're not done. There's been a Lakers reunion rumblings for what seems like forever now. And that is all well and good. But if he's the best player on your team, you are playing for ping pong balls. At 28, I've got Coby White from the Chicago Bulls, who made a significant jump last year. He was probably the only thing for people to be excited about who root for the Chicago Bulls. And I'd probably want him on my team more than people who are higher on this list. I just wouldn't want him to be the best player on that team. And number 27 on the list is a prime example of that. I've got LaMelo Ball from the Charlotte Hornets. I would rather have Coby White on my team at this point than LaMelo Ball. The dude just isn't available. But on the rare occasion that he is on the court, the ceiling is just higher. The buzz is there. And you can at least see a vision of what his potential could be as the best player on a team. You just got to squint a little. That leads us to 26 on the list, where I have Anthony Simons from the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't think it's going to take very long for him to be off of this list completely. He's either going to get traded to a team that has more talent around him, or one of the young guys on this Portland team, well, younger than him, it's not like he's old, but I think one of them is going to surpass him at some point in time, right? And it shouldn't take long for Scoot or Shaedon Sharpe to become the best player on that team. At least that's what you're hoping for if you're a fan of the Blazers. At 25, I'm going Alperen Sengun, and depending on what part of the year you're talking about from last season, you might argue that Sengun isn't even the best player on the Rockets, but I'm still giving him that edge because while Jalen Green went absolutely nuclear at the end of last year, he's going to have to show more consistency and do it during a time of the season where there's not teams that are resting guys for the playoffs, perhaps trying to manipulate seeding a little bit going into said playoffs, or teams that are downright trying to lose games and increase their odds in the lottery. But for Sengun, you at least saw what it could potentially look like with him as an offensive hub. Kind of the baby Jokic comparisons have been made, and it could be a really cool, fun style of offense to play if the Rockets even choose for that to be the future that they're going towards. At 24, Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons. He's had some health issues, some turnover issues, and a ton of supporting cast and coaching issues so far in his career. He's still got a lot of room to grow, but also needs to do that growing, and it's not totally clear if that's going to be possible with what's been going on with the Pistons over the past couple of years now. It's just awful. At 23, I'm going Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz. Similar to Coby White, Markkanen is a guy who almost every team in the league should want to have, just not as their best player, including the Jazz. And that's why the trade rumors are out there. They should be able to get a nice haul back for him because, again, every team in the league should want this guy. At 22, I've got Scotty Barnes from the Toronto Raptors. We're getting to the guys who now have the opportunity to make a significant jump on this list depending on how they play next year. He just got a max contract. They just cleared the way for him and got rid of some guys that were kind of in the way of handing him the keys full-time for the Raptors, right? Let's see, now that he has said keys, whether or not he can drive. Like, really drive. At 21, I've got Paolo Banchero from the Orlando Magic, and I'm guessing the comment section is going to quibble over whether Barnes should be ahead of Banchero. They certainly did last year when it came to the All-Star voting and those selections. They're really close to each other in talent level, and they have similar opportunities ahead of them, albeit for completely different reasons at the same time. For Banchero, he could take a huge leap up this list as the best player on a team with team success. This Magic team has the opportunity to hit another gear and move up the playoff ladder. And if they do, it's because Paolo Banchero went from being a nice young player who just made his first All-Star team to being legit best player on like conference finals contender type status. At 20, I've got Zion Williamson from the New Orleans Pelicans. If you could tell me that he was going to spend the entire offseason in the LeBron James nutrition and workout program and that he was guaranteed to play at least 75 games next year, he's higher on the list. But there's a real possibility here that the 70 games that he played last year is the healthiest he's ever going to be. And that came with regression across his performance in almost every statistical category. But at the same time, there may never be a world where we watch the highlight package and don't have the thought of this dude could be a top 5 player in the league. I just don't think we're ever going to see it. At 19, I've got Kawhi Leonard from the Clippers. I hate having Kawhi this low on the list. It's just that we don't know if the dude is going to play. And lately, we're seeing him miss the most important games on the schedule. And it just sucks. We know what the talent level is. We know what he was and what he's capable of in short spurts. We just don't know if we're ever going to get it when it matters again. At 18, I've got Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks. As polarizing as almost anyone in the league, the dude is an offensive savant who gets cooked on defense and dominates every single possession. He's probably the best player in the league that is the least fun to play with. At 17, I've got De'Aaron Fox from the Sacramento Kings. Another opportunity for quibbling. Is Fox better than Sabonis? Where does DeRozan fall into play now that they've got him? I still think it's Fox because the team goes how he goes. When he won Clutch Player of the Year, they were a 3 seed and the darlings of the league, lighting the beam, and everything was amazing. He comes back down to earth a little bit, the shooting around him takes a dip, and the rest of the conference gets better. The Kings didn't. The middle of this list feels extremely appropriate for De'Aaron Fox. At 16, it's Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat. If this was just a playoff list with guaranteed health, Butler moves up. But it's not. You have to play the 82 games first before the playoffs even start, and you have to be available in said playoff games. And last year, he didn't really do either, certainly not at the level that we've come to expect from Jimmy Butler. And at 35 years old next season, I'm not sure that we see that again. 15 on the list is going to be Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies. It's easy to forget how good Ja Morant was playing before the suspensions and the injury. And if you're a fan of basketball, you just have to hope that both are in his rear view because the guy is absolutely electric on the basketball floor. We just need him to be on it. Number 14 is going to be Victor Wembanyama from the San Antonio Spurs. I would predict that we are 2 years away from the true Wemby takeover. As if the hysteria of his rookie season wasn't crazy enough, the fact is his team sucked. And they're probably still going to suck for another couple of years. At least until he gets so good that he raises the floor out of the basement and it's just impossible for them to suck anymore. Chris Paul is going to help, but he's pushing 40. And I truly believe that when they signed him, they guaranteed Wemby a spot in the All-Star game, as long as Chris Paul's there to pass him the ball. But if Wemby's body holds up and fills out, in a couple of years, we could be talking first-team All-NBA, and that might be underselling it. Number 13, Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers. The highs were really high last year, but the health issues derailed it, and the lows got pretty low in terms of best player on your team type of standards. But there's a world where he's legitimately the best point guard in the NBA, and nobody is shocked by that. Of course, I know I'm also going to get the, but what about Luka's? And we'll get to him in a minute. It just kind of depends on how you feel about him being a point guard. At 12, it's Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks. He's got everything he ever wanted, it seems. He just took a big old pay cut to play with the Knicks, and he's playing with his best friends, for his dad, on a team run by his godfather, in a city that's adopted him as their savior. I'm convinced that he's spending his offseason laying out by a pool made of gold, getting fanned with the giant leaves and fed grapes from supermodels. And if he plays like he did last year, he absolutely deserves it. At 11, I've got Donovan Mitchell from the Cleveland Cavs, and I might get some hate for having him ahead of Brunson. And yes, there's a little bit of Cavs bias in me, but I don't think that clouded my judgment here. In January last year, this guy was getting legitimate votes in the Bontemps MVP straw poll. We just saw him drop 50 in the playoffs and like 89 over 2 games to close out the Orlando series. There are some flaws in his game, but he is absolutely that dude when the lights are on. Kicking off the top 10 of this list, I've got Kevin Durant for the Phoenix Suns. 5 years ago, he's top 3, but turning 36, several major injuries behind him, and a trail of just bizarre locker room issues and trade demands and disappointing seasons. What we got now is basically just a mid-range assassin who can get as hot as anyone, but he may just not have that extra gear anymore. He's still top 10 among the best players on every team, and I don't think there's a lot of doubt in that. Number 9, Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ant is ascending, and I'm here for it personally. I think he's one of the most fun players to watch on planet Earth. His sense of humor brings me joy. I love that he is just fully embracing the idea of locking in and stepping up on both ends of the floor. He wants to take that challenge, and I hope that we reach the point at some point in time where he actually becomes the face of the NBA after LeBron is old and gray and gone away. He's just got a little bit of maturing in his game to do before he gets there. At number 8, Steph Curry, Golden State Warriors. The Splash Brothers are gone, but Steph Curry is not. It's amazing how well his game has aged, particularly given the health issues that he dealt with when he came into the league. That jumper is never going anywhere. So as long as his body can hold up, there's only so far down this list that he can realistically fall. At number 7, I've got Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers. Dude won MVP 2 years ago. Scored 70 in a game last year. He's a monster. But he's starting to hear a little bit more of the, well, he shrinks in the playoffs narrative that is completely valid. He needs a healthy playoff run where his performance doesn't dip and he steps up and clearly shows like he's that guy on a contender when it matters the most. And so far, that level has eluded him in his career. At number 6, it's LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers. Some people are going to say this is too high. He's old. He's ruining the Lakers. He just got his son drafted. AD's actually better. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. The dude just dropped almost 26 a game with 8 assists and 7 rebounds while shooting 54% from the field and 41% from 3, shooting over 5 threes a game. No one on this list below him is doing that. And he did it in a year that he turned 39 years old and still played over 70 games. If his name was Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, or Kobe frickin' Bryant, his statue would already be sitting outside of 30 arenas across North America. As far as I'm concerned, there is a large portion of NBA fans who just can't wait for this guy to move on and be gone, and the rational ones are going to absolutely wish that they hadn't, and they're going to regret it. And I'm not one of them, because what we are witnessing is truly greatest of a generation, historic, never going to happen again. And until he actually says, I'm done, those calling for a new face of the NBA can sit and listen to hold music for a while. At 5, it's Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics. It's tough to go any lower than this for him at this point in time. He didn't get the finals MVP, but he's still clearly the best player on the Celtics. He's a champion now, and I truly believe that what we saw him do in the finals when his shot wasn't falling is the most promising thing that can still be developed in his game. If he can become a true playmaker while still being able to score the way that he always has, defend the way that he always has, and his team continues to win the way that they always have with him on it, we're having real MVP discussions. At 4, I've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dude was just second in MVP voting. He was first team All-NBA, third in Clutch Player of the Year, and he got Defensive Player of the Year votes. He's the whole package of what you want out of a best player on your team, and the team around him is just poised to continue growing. And they were just the 1 seed in the Western Conference. What more could you want? At 3, I've got Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm just going to say it. If Luka didn't spend so much time complaining to the refs and actually tried on defense, he's the number 1 guy on this list. But a guy who's been as offensively dominant as he's been since he got into the league, who was top 3 in MVP votes, has 5 straight first-team All-NBAs, and just took his team to the finals, you can't drop him past 3. At 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. And this one actually hurts me a little bit to say, to be honest, because I'm not the biggest Giannis fan in the world, to be completely truthful with you. Recognize your biases, but I think as a collective, the NBA world is starting to fall asleep a little bit on Giannis. Not like REM sleep, but maybe just like how drowsy you get on Thanksgiving after you've had like 3 plates, you just sat down in the recliner for about 45 minutes, kicked the legs up, you've undone the button of your pants. That level of falling asleep on Giannis. Because this dude still absolutely dominates both sides of the ball, and he's turning 30, not 36. I think there are some legit questions about how his game is going to age, but we're not worried about that yet. If we're worried about anything, it's whether the team around him is going to be able to pick it up after a very disappointing season last year. And for number 1, that leaves Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets. 3 of the past 4 MVPs, and he was second in the one that he didn't win. He's also only turning 30, and I'm not worried at all about the way his game is going to age. Honestly, I think it's more likely that he's going to retire early and just go breed horses than ever get to the point where we're worried about his decline in athleticism is going to outweigh the fact that he's 7 feet tall and one of the best passers that's ever played the game of basketball. Not to mention he can shoot. The guy's literally a cheat code. All right, how'd I do? Let me know in the comments what I got wrong, and while you're down there, like the video so that YouTube knows it doesn't suck, and subscribe to the channel so that you can let me know that you want me to keep making more of them.